Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our presentation today. My name is Sammy. We are here to talk about delivering a greater value to our users with AI. Before we get started, I just want to go over a couple notes. First, we will be recording the presentation today. If you would like a copy of this, or if you'd like it to share with somebody else that might be interested, I will be sending out an email at the end of the presentation. You can reply to me there for a copy of it, and I'd be more than happy to send you a link. I can also send you the slide deck. And along the way, if you have any questions, I do have the Q&A open. You can type your questions in at any time. We will be saving time at the end of the presentation to go through those. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to pass this over to Glenn.
All right. Thank you, Sammy. Sammy, can you confirm you can hear me okay and you see my first slide?
Yes, I sure can.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Thank you. And thank all of you for attending. I appreciate you coming out and spending about 45 minutes or so with us. The purpose of this presentation is kind of different than we normally do here at NewEra Software. I'm not going to go in to a particular product and go deeply into what its capabilities are or anything. But I want to talk to you about what we're doing here at NewEra regards to AI. Now, everyone knows AI is the hottest topic out there in the information industry. If you're like me, you'll probably get 10 or 12 emails a day announcing something or other, or asking for information about AI or something. Watched a ball game the other day, and IBM had a couple of commercials about their AI solution. Time Magazine dedicated an entire issue to it. I mean, it is on everybody's mind. Everybody's talking. What we here at NewEra are people who are inquiring about what are you doing about AI? Are you taking advantage of it? Is there something that NewEra is going to do to assist in that area? And our focus is really on how we can take the knowledge and the important information that we capture with our products and store under our controls and make it much more visible, make it much more valuable because it can draw conclusions and give you indicators of things that you need to worry about and be concerned with. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, just to update our users in the community that we are aware that AI is out there. AI is a discipline that's not going away, but that we can use it in order to add value to what we're already producing and perhaps produce more information and be more succinct in what we provide in terms of solutions and recommendations from our products. Now, our products, if I can get this to advance here, really focus around, no pun intended, image focus. Image focus is a product that, looking at the list of attendees, a lot of you already own. This is a product that produces the analysis of the structure of an IPL of a ZOS LPAR or an entire sysplex and all the most critical subsystems. It evaluates it. It tells us what's there. It tells us if everything is correct and can be trusted. So on the right-hand side of this slide in the purple, we're talking about visibility. This is the ability for image focus to detect the structure, all the elements in it, all the Parm Lab members, all the startup parameters for JES and VTAM and TCP/IP and all the subcomponents, and understand them all and be able to inspect and evaluate and give you back a conclusion that it reaches. That information is stored away at various places. That's very valuable, but if it doesn't get used, it has no value. So we need to make it usable. There's a method for constant surveillance in here in order to detect changes, and just a great deal of capability and power built into the image focus product itself. But on the left-hand side, we're talking more about the trust requirements and the trust regulations that exist out there and what we can do to assist you and to match those. And that's with an application called the Control Editor. And again, some of you are customers of that. And what it allows you to do is to increase the security around certain activity that goes on beyond what's there from your legacy security systems, RACF, ACF2, or Top Secret. It helps you ensure the integrity of that environment, making sure everything's documented, that backups are taken, that corporate procedures and policies are being enforced, and disciplines applied to activity like changes or the issuance of commands. That's what the control editor is about. And you put those together, and the idea is in the center is to give you the ability to know that you're ready, that the systems that you have are resilient, are proper. If they're modified, the modifications have been changed and documented explicitly. We know what's going on and we can move forward. If there is a problem, I have recovery points and all those necessary things to make sure that I've got a healthy environment. So that's the framework for which we're going to talk about today. But we're going to talk about on the lower right of that orange block at the bottom, AI agents and what they do to help you make this happen and to make the information that we store by these products and in our data spaces more usable and more obvious. Now, in order to do that, what I want to do is talk about the agents themselves a little bit here first. I mean, when we talk about them, what we want to do is make sure that you understand we're talking about strictly looking at information that either is extracted and analyzed and stored and reported on by one of our products. We're not talking about looking at your data or your customer's data or anything like that. This is simply what's coming out of our applications that evaluate the configuration elements necessary or the critical data sets that you've identified to us that you want protected. That's stored away, and we want to be able to give you information, insight, and guidance against those resources and see if there's any issues or problems that need to be dealt with, much like an expert on your staff would do. So it's another method of having things checked, changes validated, improvements measured to see if they're really going to make that improvement. Make sure that improvements are deployed across all the LPARs. Those kind of information, that kind of information is what's important, and so it's stored by our products. The agents have to know how to collect that, how to go get it, where is it, where can I find it, and evaluate it, sometimes across data sources. So there might be some information stored in one place and a piece that's relevant somewhere else. Needs to be able to pull those together and correlate them and be able to give you back a conclusion that based upon the information that it looked at, you can trust. I have documentation. I know how I got there. I can explain it to you. I can show it to you. So that's the idea of these agents, is to sit on top of the information that's already being built and constructed by the different products that we have within our structure of the image focus product and the control editor and add-on applications that we've added to those environments over time. So in order to kind of explain it better, what I have done is built just a simple example of what we're able to do and why the use of these agents is going to add so much value. So it's a very simple thing. I think you all will understand this example as we get into it. But if you have questions or comments, as Sammy said, there's a QA in the box in the bottom. You can write your questions or save it to the end, and we'll open it up and see if anybody has any questions. But my sample is this. Early yesterday morning, when I logged on the system, I got a broadcast message. It says there's a change member stored from a change on system D. Now that message came out of Image Focus. Image Focus has this constant surveillance method where it's looking at different configuration elements for different LPARs, and it evaluated it and came back and detected a change. This message doesn't give me much information. It's just a starting point. It's something that says there's an issue out there you should go look at or be concerned with, or you want to learn more about. When I explained this to my wife, I kind of explained to her, it's sort of like driving down the interstate highway and you see a road sign that says, caution, road construction ahead. Doesn't tell you much. It just tells you that there's something you're going to have to deal with. And in that case, if your car is supplied with it, you might jump over to your tracking system or your GPS guidance system and go and see how much red there is in your route that you want to take and whether or not you need to switch routes or whatever. But the idea is you have a place to start, and it leads to more questions that you need to have answers to. And you'll see as we go deeper into this example that those answers are contained within the framework that is Image Focus and the other products. Now, first of all, for those of you who aren't familiar with Image Focus has the ability to evaluate configuration elements that are processed at IPL time or at startup of the major subsystems. These are ParmLab members, JCL files, control cards that control JES and servauth and Pageant and all the other configurations. It supports all of those things. It knows the syntax rules. It knows how to find them. It knows where to test them for accuracy. It does symbol substitution, all the things that you would think about that need to validate that content. So when I got that message, it says there was a change somewhere in that structure, but I don't know where. Now I'm familiar with this product and I know how to make it work and familiar enough with the ZOS architecture to say, well, where was that change made? Well, the answer lies within the framework of the data we've created when this process ran. It ran automatically at some time, detected that change and put up that warning message. It stored that information away, and now I can view it if I know how to get there. Now I do. So I was able to go through the panels and go down and find out right away that there was a change made to, if you look at it at the top of the screen, PROG AB, our PROG member AB. Now, a lot of these screens, by the way, are screenshots, so they're going to be different sizes and they don't fit the background very well, but I needed to get the content in. So in this case, it's a change that I know I made. So I expected to see this change, and now I'm happy. I know that it captured the change I made to that member and stored it away. You can see very simply what I did is change the dataset name that it was pointing to for an APF entry. But now the question continues. All right, if I made that change, was that change going to have an effect on the IPL, or is it going to raise an issue or a risk? Now, that inspection process, when it detected the change, also created out an evaluation of the content of that particular member, not only identifying which lines were changed, but also telling me that that change I made at the bottom of the panel says that that data set that I pointed to doesn't exist. And so that opens up a risk. It could have had a syntax problem. It could have been anything else going on out there with whatever member that got altered. In this case, this is the alteration I know I made, and now I got some work to do. I've got to go out and put that data set on the right volume. Now, the log from the prior panel, if you notice, had a lot of other errors and warnings and stuff, and all those things should be resolved and taken care of. But one of the other things that I see when I look at this particular item, tracking my change, that there was another change made sometime earlier where this other IFO load data set was added, and it has the same problem. Now, I'm not going to track that down, but I need to. I need to fix that as well. But this is a surprise. I didn't expect that change to show up here. I didn't expect that problem to exist in that member. I only expected my change to be reported on and show up as an issue. So the idea here is that you're not limited to just tracking down one item. What we're doing all the time is giving you a constant evaluation of the use of these components, either as individual components or as a collective in the entire process of starting an IPL or one of the critical subsystems. And that's really what the next point is. So whether or not that change was made to the member, I know that's been made. But my next question is, has that change been activated? Has that command been issued to reload the APF entries into the running system so that that is now operational and that data set is now authorized, even though it doesn't really exist on the right volume? So what is stored away in the framework is also the results of what's called a dynamic audit. It says, go out and check and see if what's defined in the different members match what's actually running on the system. And if it does, fine, tell me it's the same. If it doesn't, report that as a difference. So since I know I made a change to the APF list, I want to know whether or not that change has been committed and activated within the system. So this tells me right away that there's a difference in my APF list. And now I can come in and query that difference, and it shows me that that data set that I added and replaced the triple X with my initials uh, doesn't match the running system. So what's in the running system is the triple X, but my change has not been loaded up, and that's the difference that it reports. But once again, I'm surprised. There's another change that went on by command by somebody else that changed the IFO-T to MTGY. And I don't know when that was done or has done that or why, but all of that is stored away somewhere within the data stream and the data storage that we have within our product. I can go look at all of those, but let's stay with the same example. So now I want to know more about what I did and I know about, but I also need to go back and research that other thing because it's a problem as well. Now, what we're looking at now is a panel that exists inside the control editor. So if I needed to know when that change was made and who changed it, this is a document that was required that I fill out when I made that change. This is part of the site standards. This is part of enforcing those standards. So we have a policy that says if you change something in ParmLive, this is the form you need to fill out at the point in time you make the change. This document, along with the change record, is what's written into our recording vehicle called the journals. The journals are capturing all the changes that are being made either interactively through TSO-ISPF against the targets or detected automatically against those same targets. So if a change comes in that was not made by TSO-ISPF, that would be recorded. And although I'm using PDS with members as an example here, we can also do this for load libraries and Unix files and the issuance of commands and a lot of other things that track activity. So this could all be recorded. You can see that it's got my user ID at the top, so I know who made this change. I can see that there was a change request that was asked or it needs to line up with and match up to. I got in for other information about the project and the date I want to implement it. And there's some screen missing on the right-hand side that showed who's going to implement. At the bottom of it, there's fields for comments and instructions about why were you making this change? What's the backout instructions? What do you want to do with it? This record is stored away into the journaling system, as I said, along with the new content that was altered. So I have a new current backup and I have the document that describes why this backup was taken and the change that made from prior versions. So in addition to getting the notice when I logged on that said, hey, something's changed in this particular LPAR, I now have full documentation about when that change occurred, who made the change, the reason for the change, and when that change is to be implemented, as well as other details that I want to include within this document or this record within the journaling system. The journal also contains the full content of the members. I just pulled the last couple of lines, but the full content is stored in the journal as well. This gives us a lot of flexibility to compare versions of the member over time. So maybe I have a change that was made 3 months ago and another one 6 months ago. Well, I can go back in that history and compare the state of this member from then till now. So all of this is stuff that I know how to do, things that I can do my research, I can understand, I can know that a change has been made and I can detect that. But I'm going through the panels. I'm going through and doing the work myself in order to figure that out and understand what needs to be done. Once I get there, I can do things. I can restore, I can edit, I can copy, I can do whatever I want to either back off a change or make a new change. The idea is I don't necessarily have the time or maybe the knowledge or the requirement to go through all those panels to get the answer. I may know the answers right away, or I might think I know the answers to be surprised by other changes that are being detected that I was aware of, like I showed you in some of these examples. Now, the next question that might come up is, all right, so we got a change. The change was made to the APF list. And up until now, we've been talking about looking at that regarding a single LPAR. But in today's world, a single LPAR doesn't exist. I mean, let's face it, you've got shared everything just about across multiple LPARs. So if I have a picture or a diagram like you see here, this is from our product called ICE Direct, which reads in these logs produced by the image focus structure. But I pull this in and I'm able to create a very knowledgeable, complete picture of all of the LPARs that use the APF data sets and what those data sets are and where are they being used, which LPARs are being used or use a particular library. In this case, I was interested in the one change. So instead of looking at a full list, which may be a couple hundred libraries here that I would be in my APF list, instead what I want to do is search for one. And I ask it to tell me for this one data set, which LPAR right now is configured to use that library. And it's telling me that system D is the only one. Now, this has up to 8 LPARs on a display. You can have multiple displays. Think of it as scrolling to the right and get more and more and more. The information here, it comes from the logs created on those LPARs. So it's a matter of putting the logs together in one place so that they can all be evaluated together and measured together and reported on together. But the idea here is simple. We have the knowledge stored. We've extracted that out. We've evaluated. We know that this particular data set or library, excuse me, doesn't exist where it's supposed to. So if I want to find out more about it, I need to ask these kind of questions. Excuse me, I had to take a drink of water. So what we're doing now is expanding what we're able to look at. Not a single LPAR, not even a single sysplex, but the logs that feed this analysis can come from any LPAR and any sysplex around the world. We've got customers that manage 3, 5, 7, 10 LPARs. We have customers that manage over 100 LPARs and every number in between. Can you imagine being in a situation where you've got a change reported like that first message I showed you? This is a change was made on system D. And now you want to know whether or not that same change got ported out to the other 99 LPARs that may be using that same library or the similar library to that, and try to do that manually. That's what we're talking about here. We can show you the results individually or collectively as long as you pull those logs together into an analytical tool that will tell you what's going on. ICE Direct is the first step in that, but it's still driven by you going to a browser, clicking on the appropriate icon, and getting the answer. It's a lot easier to see than in a 3270 session. The icons and the color coding and the different ways of navigating through the layers of data, but it's still you pushing the button and getting that analysis out. So what we've done is now taken our first step into the world of an AI application that will be more like your travel assistant or your GPS system within your car. So that if you get that warning light, you have the ability to dig more deeply, to get answers immediately to what's going on, like you would on your display from your GPS system. This is a shot from a product called IPL Check AI. Now, IPL Check AI has been recently released. It is available. And what it's designed to do is to give you this overview of the status of your LPARs that you have produced the logs for and centralize the logs. You can see this particular screen can show up to 32 LPARs. You can have multiple screens. These logs can come from the same sysplex, multiple sysplexes, multiple geographically dispersed locations, however you want to manage the logs together. And what it will do as an eye catcher is immediately tell you the status of all the LPARs. Now, those of you with eagle eyes probably notice the dates are very old on this, and I apologize. I didn't have time to refresh this with the new update. But regardless of the date, what it's telling me is that for these 6 LPARs, the status of those, system A is in good shape, has no problems. B, C, D, and E They have problems. They have things I need to deal with. And again, where I'm at, I simply can now put my cursor over any one of these fields and hit it, and it will pop up all the detail, all the information I need that was used in order to determine that that's what we needed to tell you. That's what's the condition that exists for that particular LPAR. You can see on the panel at the lower right, there's another thing that says show exceptions. It switches the display a little bit differently. There's also another button on the upper right called compare. These all gives us the ability to execute against that data source and understand the detail below it. This is IPL check AI. These logs can be produced by our inspection process that runs on a request basis, as run as a monitor on a timer. That can be run in batch mode, or they can run inside the health checker or ZOS from IBM. And so that's why this thing is called IPL check, because that's a very popular method of using this technology in order to create out those logs that evaluate and identify activity and changes going on these different LPARs. Now, I want to point out something again for those of you who have noticed, there's also an LPAR here called Gold. What this application allows you to do is to address a problem that some of our customers have brought up with us, as some called referred to as drift. In other words, I set out an application, or excuse me, a system level on a particular date. And this is the standard that I want all my LPARs to adhere to. And maybe it's a subset. So you group them together in categories or in groupings that says all of these LPARs should be identical. And this is the gold standard or the standard for those LPARs. You had the ability to freeze that, to make that your constant reference point and compare any of the other LPARs back to that gold standard. And it will tell you whether or not those LPARs are drifting. So now what you have the ability to do is know whether or not each individual LPAR has changed and have history of all of those changes that have occurred against that individual LPAR, but be able to also compare it back to the standard that you set and know if someone has varied from that. Now you can update the standard when appropriate, but the idea being is that if you set a standard that my APF list has 127 libraries in it, and that's the standard that you want to use, no one's supposed to add or take away from that. You can compare that any point in time you want to against the other LPARs through this application, and it will show you that it's constant or it's a variable, that someone has made an increase or a decrease on one LPAR that's in violation of the standard, and give you that very quickly and very easily. Now, what we're going to do with this kind of concept of building in agents that collect the data that's stored in these various places. So I showed you what I would drive and do. I know where to go get this. I know where to get the answers to my questions within the different data sources behind our products created by ImageFocus and or the control editor. Our intention is to put AI agents out in several places to assist you to do the same thing. I've already been talking about the one down in the lower right, this little guy called IPL Check AI. That's available now, and it can help you manage, again, multiple LPARs, the way I showed you on the prior screen, by bringing the logs together, being able to automatically be notified of changes, either static or dynamic changes to one of those LPARs, being able to compare. All of that's now available from that little guy down in the bottom right. The other agents are either under construction or just about ready to be rolled out. They're being tested and documented. And they're there not only to do the things like I described with the iHealth Checker or IPL Check AI, but also to assist in some of the more complex things that you have to deal with. We can look on the left-hand side, there's something called Val Boot AI. This is if you're going down the path of doing validated boot or secure boot and doing all the necessary work to prepare it. It's there to help and to monitor and manage that environment for you. In the upper right, we see one for certificate intelligence AI. This is going to do the same thing for you and managing your digital certificates on the mainframe. These will all be discussed in follow-on webcasts in the month of July. Keep an eye on your emails and your invites to come out and see them. But the idea is, again, going back and what we talked about today is what the image focused product and the control editor product produces for you in terms of knowledge and information and making that much more valuable. Now, as we develop these agents and make them available to you, keep in mind that we're sharing information all along the way as well, which means where appropriate, we can send off emails. Where appropriate, we can update external trackers like ServiceNow. We can send out alerts to your phone if you want to do that. We can basically make sure everything is always documented, team is fully aware, and permanent record keeping is kept as well in our journaling system, in our reports, and in our blueprints and packages created by Image Focus. One of the things that we want to make sure we ensure is that we keep the human always involved. There's nothing in what we do that automatically changes the system or changes any values within the system. It produces results. It tells you, this is what I found. This is what I think you should do. This is something you should address. So it's giving you the guidance and the insight based upon the information that is analyzed, not only from our products, but in some cases, further queries of the system, so that if there's something else that we don't know, but we need to find out from the operating system, we have the ability to issue display commands and look at other resources and all to pull things in. But pull it all together to help you understand the situation, the status, what may need to be done, and give you the insight and guidance to get it done. But to work cooperatively with the human. We're not going to do it automatically for you. We're not going to even let you push a button and get it executed. We're going to tell you this is what's going on and let you decide if that's the appropriate action to take. But we understand the same goal, which is to have a secure, resilient system out there that will give you the service of what that you need and expect for your customers and for your users. And we need to make sure that it's collaborative. So you have the ability to modify some of the decisions and some of the results that we produce. So if something that we flag as an error, for example, and you want to tolerate that because of a unique situation in your environment, you can downgrade that to a warning or a notice or totally remove that error warning in the process as well. So you have control over that. It's not, we're not trying to replace the human being with this. We're trying to work alongside them and give you the same feeling that you have working with a coworker sitting next to you, looking at the same data, same screens, working together to reach a conclusion and understand what needs to happen. And like I said at the very beginning, I didn't dig deep down into any of the products or into any of these agents. This is meant to be kind of a high-level introduction to what we can do, how we can do it, how we can help you, and what's going to feed these agents. So if you see something that I've covered in here and you have a question about, you want to learn more about, get a hold of us again by email or by phone and say, look, I'd like to learn more about how you did this, or where did that screen come from if you're a customer, if you're not familiar with it. And we'll be glad to work with you and get that set up. And again, pay attention to your emails the next month and a half. We'll be doing a series of other webcasts or briefings that get into much more detail about these agents and what they're able to do, help you advance what you already may know, but are uncertain of, or certain information we have that we can share with you to help you reach a valid conclusion. So thank you for attending. I'd planned for about 30 minutes and I'm right there. So right now I'd like to open it up. If there's any questions from anybody, you can type them in, or if Sammy can unmute everybody, glad to take any questions or comments at this time.
All right, Glenn.
Sammy?
I am looking. There are no questions in the Q&A right now. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to write them in. Oh, it looks like we do have some coming in. So the first being, what is the underlying technology? And are there hardware/software requirements?
Okay. I'm not sure what you mean by underlying technology. Basically, what we're talking about is a process where inside image focus, we'll talk about that almost exclusively here, where you basically give it an IP address and load farm, and it then executes a program that understands how an IPL would proceed if it started at that point. For running systems, that's automatically detected and it can reevaluate a running system, but it's just a simply push of a button saying go inspect that environment. You can also define alternate configurations by giving it an IP address and load parm that could be used, whether it be complete or not, or if it's a -1 to your res volume or whatever. But the process is our program logic that executes that process that mimics the actual flow and work and steps that an IPL would do, going through and checking all of the elements. And the same thing is true for the subsystems, JAS, VTAM, TCP, IP, all of those statements that would be processed at the startup of those systems. We process through those in our logic and confirm that what we saw is correct, usable, and there is no problem. There's no hardware requirements at all. Again, it can run in an ISPF session. It can run in a VTAM application. It can run in batch mode. It can run on its own timer. So it is much, at that point, it's more like a batch job than anything else, but it's running and executing out and producing those same logs. And as I mentioned before, it can also run as a check, as checks, several checks inside the health checker for ZOS from IBM. So it is very easy to implement, to deploy, and start getting results very quickly from the product. So I don't know if that, hopefully that answers your question.
Wonderful. And if that didn't answer your question when I send the email out after the session, feel free to reply and we can get on a one-on-one call to answer all of your questions directly as well. That being said, I don't see any more questions coming in today. So I would just like to thank everybody who joined us today and thank you, Glenn, for the wonderful presentation. As I had mentioned at the beginning, I will be emailing everybody with the opportunity to get a set of the slides as well as a link to the recording as soon as it is up. So keep an eye out on that email. We'll also ask you if you have any feedback, if you didn't see anything you wanted or expected to see, or if there is something you'd like to go over in more detail with us, we would love to set up a client briefing. And you can have the opportunity also to bring this in for a 60-day POC. Try it out in your own environment. So keep an eye out for those emails. I'll be looking for your replies. Once again, we appreciate you joining us today and have a wonderful day.
Okay. Bye, everybody.